And the same goes with our thoughts. Or like if we're predicting a threat to happen and the threat is not real, and we've already gone down the path of like the amygdala being fired and your threat response, the cortisol levels. So it works for us, but it also can not work for us in the best way if we're not intentional about it.
This episode is brought to you by Jelly Pop. Thank you so much to our presenting sponsor, Jelly Pop and Jelly Pop Kids from Evolution Design Lab. Here is what we love about Jelly Pop. They make shoes that look like a splurge, but feel like a treat. Vegan leather, memory foam insoles, and PETA-approved materials. So whether you're running errands on a 14-hour day on your feet or getting dressed for a night out, the same pair works. From jelly shoes to sandals, wedges, boots, and sneakers, if it's trendy, they've got it. I can personally attest to how much I love the sneakers. I went to a concert, danced all night, and I could not have been more comfortable. They are my favorite pair of sneakers I own. Also, with Jelly Pop Kids, you can twin with your little one in shoes that you both love. So find Jelly Pop at Famous Footwear, Shoe Carnival, Belk, JCPenney under Sister Brand Pop, Amazon, and more. And don't forget to search Jelly Pop online. You and your feet, your confidence, well, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to an AEGC Originals podcast, Undefinable. My name is Kara. Thank you to our listeners who have been with us on our journey and are back with me, and to our new listeners. Very excited to have you here. Our guest today is Dr. Deepika Chopra, known as the Optimism Doctor. She wrote a book called The Power of Real Optimism. It came out in March and has already or instantly became a national bestseller. And she has some really, really cool and interesting concepts and how she frames the idea of optimism. And I'm really, really excited to talk to her today. So let's bring on Dr. Deepika. Hello, Dr. Deepika. Thank
Hello.
you for joining us on Undefinable today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I mean, I gave a little bit of your bio already, but you are a best-selling author. You are also a new mom. Is that correct?
I mean, I wouldn't say new, but maybe every season is new.
Yes.
So I've got 3 kids. So my youngest is 2, my middle is 5, and my eldest just turned 9.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's every day feels new.
Every
and
day
every
feels
day
new.
feels old.
And also, I mean, it's yes, you have
Yes.
many experience in all of the phases.
Yes, there's a lot going on. It's a busy household.
Yeah.
But it's
It
great.
must have been something I was looking at when you
Yes,
were
probably.
doing probably some interviews about
Mhm.
your 2-year-old then.
Yes.
About wow.
I'm a
Well-
new girl mom.
Love this for you.
I know.
Love this for you. Are
Yeah.
you loving it?
I'm loving it. It's really cool. I mean, she just wants to do everything her older brothers do.
Yeah.
But I just took her to like our first ballet class.
Yeah.
Which was really fun because it's just baseball and basketball in my life, which I love too. Like
Right.
all of a sudden I'm like a baseball mom.
Yeah, you're like I'm a sports mom
Eat,
now.
breathe, and sleep baseball. It's like
Oh
a
my
big deal
gosh.
in my house. But
Yeah.
we just did ballet. So she wants to wear like batting gloves while doing ballet. So that's very,
Stop it. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed
yeah,
with that.
it's really cute.
Is your family a Dodger family?
Yes.
Okay.
But so my older son and my middle son, they play baseball a lot. My husband played in college.
Oh, so like
it's
straight up
big-
a baseball family.
Yeah, we're straight
Like,
up a baseball
yes.
family. I mean, I did not know anything about baseball before. I
Mhm.
still don't claim to know that much.
Yes.
But the things I do know, actually, it sounds so nerdy, but from a psychological perspective, I think baseball is the perfect sport. It is.
And you are a psychologist.
I am, but
So I'm
it
just letting
is-
everybody know that there is some scientific basis to
I
this. Let's
honestly
hear
find it a perfect sport.
Yeah.
And also, aside from it being a perfect sport, I think, because it teaches so much resilience. There's a lot of errors. That's like a baseball term. I had no idea, but I'm going to misspeak because I still don't fully get all the rules. So sorry, Alex, my husband out there, that I'm talking about baseball. But, even like Otani, he strikes out all the time.
Yeah.
And for a kid to have to learn, making errors and then like hitting a home run, like just that resiliency. And there's so many of them that I think is just it's actually like a really perfectly made resilient sport, I think. I'm really excited and proud of myself that I am talking about sports on this
Yeah, I
podcast.
know. Not the first 10 minutes being like,
Wow.
yes.
I don't even know
What
where
are the
that came from.
interests?
I guess this is just my life now.
It's,
So,
it's your life now.
yeah.
It's a big part of
Yeah.
your family, culture, and identity.
Honestly, I think it's one of my favorite parts of motherhood
Mhm.
is that I constantly am getting to learn new things.
Well, I mean, obviously, we simply must transition
Yes,
into.
let's transition.
I mean, we might come back to this because I still
Yeah.
have many a question, but
It's all related.
it's all related
Mhm.
because optimism.
It is.
It's optimism, positivity, all of the things. I
Mhm.
mean, this is,
Lifelong learner.
lifelong learner. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Again,
Yes,
totally interconnected.
very.
This is what you are about. Not the only thing you're about. We're totally multifaceted, but optimism.
Mhm.
Let's talk optimism and what people think it is,
Mhm.
what your
Mhm.
definition of it
Mhm.
is. Let's go into that.
So, first of all, I want to say, yes, I'm known as the Optimism Doctor,
Mhm.
and I wrote this book, and this is what I do, but I
Mhm.
am not the most optimistic person. Yeah,
How fascinating.
I know. I have
Let's
to just
talk
drop
about that.
there.
Yeah. Always like
Yeah.
you would feel
I mean,
that.
I would say I'm more optimistic now because I literally am learning the tools like everybody else. And thankfully, what we know about optimism is I think most people think that optimism is a inherited personality trait.
Right.
Like,
Or a
oh,
characteristic.
right. Like
Mhm.
I'm either it or I'm not, and I was born this way, and I can tell you it came from my grandma,
Yeah.
But actually, what we know about optimism is it's less of that, and it's
Mhm.
more of a learned psychological skill. And so I look at
Oh.
optimism like a muscle, and just like a physical muscle that is cultivated and grown through repetition, the same is true for this type of muscle. And
Mhm.
so we actually have tools that we can work on. And the more we repeat them, the more we can increase our optimism factor. So that's like the first myth that I feel like was actually something very optimistic and exciting for me when I read, because
Yeah.
I was like, I definitely was not naturally born someone that was on the optimistic side. I mean, I think there's some aspects of my life where I'm naturally more drawn to being optimistic, but in my like small microcosm of family, I'm probably the least optimistic.
Would you say the opposite of, I mean, and please correct me if I'm getting the
Mhm,
vernacular wrong.
Yeah.
Would you say the opposite of optimism is cynicism?
No.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, most people think the opposite of optimism is pessimism.
Or, oh, yes.
But I would say none of us are an optimist or a pessimist. We
Mhm.
all sort of exist on a continuum, like so
Mhm.
many other things.
Mhm.
And so I think I would say, I would argue there's probably aspects of your life that you are naturally just really optimistic about.
Mhm.
And whether those are like macro things, things happening, far away from you, or whether they're the more personal things, or whether they're professionally related versus, health related or whatever those are, or whether they have to do with your children or not. All these different, like you said, we're multifaceted, all these different aspects of our lives. We are not only on that continuum, but we also, in these aspects, we naturally are more optimistic or more pessimistic,
Mhm.
depending on sort of our environment, what we've gone through, what our experience was. And so for me personally, I feel like if we're driving in the car and we make a wrong turn,
Yeah.
I feel like my husband is like, just like, we're never going to make it on time.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I haven't seen this street before, you know?
Right.
But like,
Right.
if the doctor's office calls and I see it on my phone, my heart starts beating. I'm immediately like, oh my God, they got my blood results and it's all done.
It's not good.
And my husband is like, oh, they're probably calling about like
Scheduling the next
appointment.
Yeah.
Yes. So like you can see how
Mm.
we have our own sort of lens on things, and optimism is much more about how we interpret reality than it is about positive thinking.
Mm.
And so you can see that it's something you can work through, and that it's not static, it can change. So most people, I think of optimism and they think of positivity,
Yes.
positive thinking, the glass half full, rose-colored glasses. And I would even say most people, and this was me too before, I remember being like, I will never be an optimist because I'm a realist. Like the two can't
I've
be.
definitely heard that
Yeah,
before.
the two can't coincide. They can't coexist.
Yeah.
You either are like grounded in reality or your head is in the clouds. And actually, what we know about optimism and that's sort of why the book is called Real Optimism, The Power of Real Optimism. Real optimism is someone that's a real optimist is actually someone who is really keenly aware and mindful of the roadblocks and the setbacks and the less than ideal situations because none of us as humans are immune to struggle. We all go through struggle. Even, in small ways on a daily level, we go through struggle. But the caveat is a real optimist sees those struggles or setbacks as something that is temporary and something that they have the ability to overcome, even if they don't know how or when, but they know inside who they are will overcome it. And that's much more related to historical personal resiliency. So all the hard days they've already overcome than it is to positive thinking.
I see. Yeah, I mean, so basically a lot of it is channeled by a lot of lived experience, right?
Yes.
Like because everybody has such different lived experiences from backgrounds, from family,
Yes.
what they've gone through,
Yes.
and how to use that to shape.
Right. And a
what they
lot of
can
times
think.
that lived experience can make us less optimistic in that regard of us thinking about projecting something good to happen in the future.
Yeah.
That's why I think what I sort of look at it like how we define optimism before this definition. What most of us think of sort of like blanket statement or blind optimism
Yeah.
is you can see that in kids because they haven't had a lot of lived experience and they sort of do have the ability to constantly expect something good to happen.
And be more fearless, maybe. in
Right,
some
and be more
ways.
fearless. And then as we grow up, and you can see it with your kids too, you could see that sort of dismantling a little bit, which makes sense because you want them to have reality and you want them to be like, okay, I learned that if I put my hand on the stove, it's going to burn me. So if I put my hand on the stove, I'm expecting it to be hot and I won't do it, or maybe I will take this risk, even though I know what the outcome could be.
Yeah.
So it's not all bad, the lived experience is actually a good thing, but how we interpret the lived experience and then the reality of our current situation is really the realm of where optimism lives.
Right. And it can be adjusted and
Yes.
or I don't know if
Yes.
changed is the right word, but adjusted. The perspective
Yes.
can be worked on,
Yes.
like you said, because it's a muscle that needs to constantly be worked on.
Absolutely. And the one like example I give people for that when they're like looking at me like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Well, it can be changed by your experiences and the things like a lot of people that have had hard experiences or really bad things happen, they're not as optimistic. And I'm like, well, did that change you? Yeah, that changed you. So then intentionally we can also change it. Like it's not static. So a lot of people will say, I was this one way and then this horrible thing happened and now I'm not.
Yeah.
And so that proves that it can change. It can shift with things that you go through. So it can also shift when we intentionally, put ourselves through certain ways of thinking or challenge ourselves to think in different ways.
So interesting. Going into the lived experiences, since we're on this topic, as a Asian American woman, I don't know if you were born here or
Yeah,
born
born
somewhere
here.
else. Born,
I was
LA.
the
I'm sorry,
first.
you were just saying you were from LA.
I'm born in LA, but I'm the first generation.
Okay, same as me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we have our whole,
I mean,
a whole
that's part
nother
of the
thing.
lived experience.
It
That's part
is.
of the identity, right? And as a
Totally.
South Asian woman,
Totally.
how do you feel like that background and that lived experience? Do you feel like that played into you feeling like when you described yourself back in the day as not being optimistic or not being an optimist? Like how does that go into that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think both my parents, they immigrated here.
Yeah.
And I would say both of them are highly optimistic. And I think maybe that was necessary to come here, to even make such a bold move.
Very bold.
Right?
Yeah, to make a choice.
To make a choice to do that to my father who, he has that classic story of like he came to this country with $8.
My parents are like that
hid
too.
it in his sock or I think it was actually his underwear, but he, when he got to the airport because he was worried.
Yeah.
And he really made something amazing out of himself, not because he just manifested it, although I think there was vision, because he worked really hard.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about being a kid in that sort of experiences, I got to see that. Like when I was born, he was fine, but like there were some struggles now that I look back and now that I'm an adult that he's shared with me. They did a really good job of not placing that upon my sister and I. I just thought we like, moved, to this other place because we wanted to. I didn't realize it was because, we had to sell our house and then we had to like rent somewhere. I just remember it had blue carpet and it to me that was cool.
Yeah.
To them it was awful.
Weird core memories, right?
Yes,
That
yeah.
like stick with us. Mm-hmm.
But I got to see like him having a vision, and I got to see all the hard work and the blood, sweat, and tears every single day because he brought it home. My mom, on the other hand, and my dad's very realistic.
Okay.
He is just like, he has vision and he takes calculated risk in like a very like safe way.
Okay.
And he can be bold, but he's very measured and he is very grounded in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can lean a little bit on the sort of like he's just realistic.
Yeah.
My mom,
the realism optimism scale, right?
Yes. Yeah. My mom is like the definition of optimism before this definition. She's just like naturally always sees the good in people, even when I'm like, I've seen a lot of bad in this person.
Yeah.
How are you? She's always seeing the good in people. She is just like literally the silver lining's like always there. She doesn't dwell. She doesn't ruminate.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very positive person in an almost annoying way sometimes. I love you, Mom. But it was amazing to see that and to get some of that and to be raised by that. And
right.
so,
I mean, it sounds like two very different ways of thinking.
And they
to be
really
able to
balanced each other out in
totally.
like a great way. But I think about that often. Obviously, I think my experience of being first generation really shaped me in a lot of ways. I think more so than coming with the culture and that being something to maybe make me less optimistic or more anxious. I think it was more like growing up here.
Interesting.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I think
like to clarify growing up here as
or just I don't know. Like I feel like when I think about my mom's childhood, it just seemed like I understand why she is how she is. She was like much more sheltered.
I see.
And like it was like very idyllic, even though it was like in India, which people would imagine like would in America be that way. But I think for me, I've always been very independent. And I didn't see, like actually interestingly enough, I didn't really see my difference or that I was at all different than my peers until I was like in the 8th grade. I thought I was like white.
Right.
And
I think so many of us went through that experience. And also like growing up in LA, I guess, because it's not that it isn't diverse here.
Right.
It's not like we were the one Asian girl in Iowa. But
my like experience, I grew up in a small town.
Okay.
Part of LA, but it was a beach town in the South Bay. And at that time, I feel like, and especially my sister's time, she's 3 years older than me.
So maybe it was kind of like
there
that.
really wasn't a lot of like
diversity.
A ton of diversity.
Yeah.
And my sister had a really tough time. Like she was made fun of. There were like a lot of bullies. I don't know why just 3 years later, we're also very different people.
Right.
I kind of didn't really realize that I wasn't processing like any sort of difference except for I knew I had a lot more rules in my household than like my friends.
Right.
And then I remember being like, oh my God. And I grew up in like a surf town. I remember like very distinctly being like a preteen and being like, oh, like I don't have blue eyes, and like it was that weird time where everybody was like wearing colored contacts. And I'm like so ashamed because I got colored contacts and I look back.
Don't be ashamed, girl. We all did
do
it.
That?
We all went through the phase.
Like looking
we
back,
all went through it.
Like feels like ick.
Yeah.
And I remember having the like wherewithal though to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take my senior portraits. And I remember thinking like, do I want to have
am I going to wear
green
these
eyes in my senior portrait? And I actually have to look back. I remember having that thought, but I don't remember if I actually did it or not.
Oh my gosh.
But I remember having the thought and being like, that's weird because I don't actually have green eyes.
Yeah.
And so obviously that was all being processed in my head. And maybe I was just like going through life like it was fine. And then having these like hard realizations. But by the time I think like ninth grade hit, I feel like, I don't know, it was like cool to be a little bit different.
Mhm.
And I had this like, maybe also because I like got my eyebrows shaped. You know, all of
Life-changing?
this, like for a
Yes.
girl. And that was
Yes.
another thing. I know it sounds like so silly again and frivolous, but like I had hair on my body, like black hair, and my friends had all blonde hair. So I
Mhm.
had to like think about shaving and stuff like that a
Yeah.
lot earlier. And it made me feel very different. And it wasn't fun. I had a fourth grade teacher who measured my arm hair in front of the class.
No.
And
what?
Yeah, and whoever got
No.
it like as close to what the measurement was got a jar full of Jolly Ranchers. Yeah. I know. Yeah,
I am
I know.
mortified.
I know. I know. And I was telling my kids this because they would never now, you know what I mean? But this was like the 90s
I'm literally so shook right
or
now.
like the late 80s when I was in, like late 80s, early 90s. I think it was late 80s. Yeah, I know. That's what I was dealing with. I know.
Not me. I'm like, who is this teacher? We're finding them. Put them in jail. What's happening?
I know.
This is crazy.
Can you imagine that would never fly now?
Oh, of course not. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't have flown then.
Yes.
But obviously, you know, I mean, that
So
is
like,
it's,
but
these
I
are
look
part of
back,
the lived experiences
Right. I look
you've
back
had.
and I told my older son, and I'm like, I didn't fall apart. I didn't crumble. Obviously, I didn't feel good. I still kind of remember being so embarrassed.
Yeah.
But I still went to school the next day.
Yep.
And it was part of, not that I'm saying I wish that happened. I wish it didn't. And I wouldn't want that to be how my kids learn resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
But it is part of my fabric.
Yeah.
And like, I still had to show up and sort of, you know, believe in myself and find a confidence, even though there were weird things happening around me for being not the same as everybody else.
Yeah, weird, more, like despicable
Yes,
things.
despicable.
Like
Thank you.
absolutely
Yes.
despicable things.
Yes.
Wow, that is.
Yeah. I've never actually shared that. I've told my friends this, but I'm like, I guess this feels like the perfect place to share that because I'm sure there's people listening that have had similar experiences. Hopefully not as ridiculous as that in a school setting.
In a
your
school
fourth
setting
grade
is
class.
crazy. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I know.
Yes, I think you're totally right. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that story because I think you're right. A lot of our audience has probably experienced something. I mean, I hope not, but you know, similar situations.
Yeah.
And it is just so unfortunate.
Totally.
But like you said, these lived experiences, whether it be for being a first generation here
Right.
and, you know, being different while you were growing up,
Right.
is part of those lived experiences that have made you who you are, you
Right.
know? I love what you were saying about your kids too, because I always talk about how I love that it's so cool to be Asian now. Because, you know, growing up, like you were saying, we all went through that phase where we were like, do we want to be white? I think we want to be white.
Right.
But then it's like now with
and
Shohei
everything
Ohtani,
Shohei
K-pop Demon Hunters, like I'm like,
totally.
It's
and like
very cool to be
the
Asian.
other day, so there is this like amazing Indian Punjabi artist out right now. His name is Diljit Dosanjh.
Okay.
He played Coachella. He sold out 3 days at Madison Square Garden. He just played Crypto, sold out 3 days of that. He's amazing. My family's Punjabi. And it was like one of the first times I feel like I got to take my parents somewhere and give them an experience because like they're always taking us places. I'm still like the kid. That's another cultural thing, I think.
Yes, it is.
Like when I'm at home, even just the other day, we were all at a family dinner and my parents were like, okay, now all the kids in a picture. And it was like my age group.
That was
and I'm
you.
like, yeah, we're still the kids. And my husband's like, who's the kids? I'm like, we're the kids here.
Yeah.
We're the
Get
kids.
in the photo.
Yeah, we are the kids.
Yeah.
We may have kids, but we are still the kids.
Yeah.
And it was, my parents are always just, they're amazing. And I feel like that is something that has helped me through all of my hardest moments. Even in that particular moment, I'm thinking back as a kid, I had great parents. Like I had a really secure household. I grew up near my grandparents. My grandfather, who is now my kid's great-grandfather, just turned 100 last week. Yeah, and we're like a very close-knit family, and I think that also comes from my cultural experience.
Yeah.
Like that's not out of the norm for where my family comes from.
Yeah.
But so there's some good too, you know, in being like, I remember all my friends would come over as a kid for Diwali and all
That's
my like
so cool.
non-Indian friends. And like they wanted to be part of that culture and all of
that's
that. And that's
cool.
something
That's
made it
special.
cool.
Yes.
But still, yes. So recently, this is going to put everything back in a circle from our first when we talked about. Okay.
Beautiful.
So my middle son plays Little League.
Okay.
Right? He's in Little League. My older son's a little bit, it's a little more serious baseball, but Little League and all the little kids, we have this great set of coaches. My husband's one of them. And then one of the moms actually from our class is a coach and she's amazing.
Love.
Shout out to Emily. And the two of them and a couple of their coaches, they just made the experience so great for these 5-year-olds. And they all had walk-up songs. And towards the last like couple games, all of a sudden, and they changed because the kids changed the music that they like. All of a sudden, I heard like Punjabi Bhangra being played for one of the kids. And I'm like, is this his walk-up song? There's a kid it's also half Punjabi and half Korean on the team. And I was like so excited. And I told my son, like, this is the music you come from. And he's using it as a walk-up song. That's so cool. And then like that week, this artist who's making waves and he's just amazing. And again, he comes from this village in Punjab, like where my dad came from. And he wears he wears a turban. He's like fully he's not being like Western, you know what I mean? He's like in his garb. He brought people from the village. Like they're doing like Bhangra traditional dancing on the stage and it's just cool. And that was my experience of, I have some friends, lots of Asian friends who are like saying the same thing, taking their daughters to see, K-pop music.
Yeah,
at,
BTS.
Like, yes.
And
how
cool.
I had that experience where I was like, oh my gosh, like I could see him playing the Super Bowl, like he's like the Bad Bunny of Punjab, and bringing that and having it be cool.
And then bringing your parents.
Yes,
it's
bring
all
my
the
parents.
intergenerational, like healing in some ways too.
And I looked at that parent and I was like, my parenting job will be done when my kid chooses a Punjabi Bhangra song for a walk-up song.
Yeah.
So I'm like putting the seeds in. And then my older son was like, he was kind of interested. I'm like, do you think that's cool? Because like you should.
Yeah,
this is cool.
What do you think?
Right. So that's going to be planting my little seeds. Let's see.
I'm obsessed.
Baseball,
I can't wait.
Drip,
I can't
and Bhangra.
wait. Yeah. Honestly, life sounds very exciting, actually. Amazing categories. Big thanks to our presenting sponsor, Jelly Pop and Jelly Pop Kids from Evolution Design Lab. Jelly Pop makes shoes that look like a splurge but feel completely effortless. From cushioned jelly shoes to sandals, wedges, boots, and sneakers, if it's trendy, they've got it. And it's incredibly affordable. And now with Jelly Pop Kids, you can twin with your little one in shoes that you both love. Find Jelly Pop at Famous Footwear, Shoe Carnival, Belk, JCPenney under sister brand Pop, Amazon, and more. Make sure you also search Jelly Pop online. Your feet and confidence will thank you. So, us talking kind of through, you growing up and kind of your experience with that. Do you remember when was the moment when you like had that aha moment about optimism and about how you wanted to reshape this or not reshape this? Reshape this for people and be able to, have people understand your knowledge of this, like share that knowledge. Was there a moment?
There definitely was a moment. I feel like everything that I've done has been in a very nonlinear fashion. Like I didn't go to undergrad. I didn't study psychology in undergrad. I actually my first job out of school, my first job in school was working at a punk label, like a music label, which was the best time of my life. I may or may not have dyed my hair Hot Topic red. Maybe.
Again,
the
mom is cool. It's a cool mom.
Weren't a lot of pictures then like there are now, thankfully.
You know about drip and you know how to make the drip.
But my first like real job out of college was in investment banking. So like totally different.
Yeah.
Right? And so all of this, won't bore you with the story of the whole thing. But when I found myself in psychology, again, my parents, my dad especially, again, culturally speaking or whatever, he was just like, rolled his eyes and was like, another thing that you're going to try to pick up and not finish. Right? Like a little, he was like supportive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I want to go to grad school.
Right.
I want to like do my master's. And then like, I'm kind of thinking about doing my doctorate. And he was like, whoa. Like, that's a really long process. And like, so far you've lasted like about a year in every job that you've had. And
Okay,
it's been about
dad
3
would call me
realist.
out. Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, always call, which is great too.
Mhm.
He wasn't afraid to call me out.
Yeah.
But also was supportive in literally helping me do it because he did pay for my grad school. So thank you, Dad. And Mom. And I think what was so interesting is it really was the first time that I ever, and I'm still not finished because I'm still going, like I'm still doing it. I didn't quit.
Mhm.
I went through the master's. I did all the hours, thousands and thousands of hours of clinical work. I applied for my doctorate. I got my doctorate. I wrote a dissertation. I've now written a book on it. And so he was kind of, I mean, I think part of it was I realized it was the first time that I actually made a real decision about my life and what I want to do, like all by myself. Not with like, this is what we think you should do. This is what we think you're good at. You know, I remember when I was in undergrad, everyone around me was like, you're obviously going to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
Like, this is what you should do. You're so good at arguing. You should be a lawyer.
It's not a bad.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not
But
a
by the
bad
way,
thing
you
to be known for.
You need arguing in lots of different professions and
100%.
things.
Arguing isn't
Right.
necessarily
The
a
art
negative
of
thing.
arguing
Thank you.
yeah, that's the human skill, people.
Yes.
So I remember signing up for the LSATs,
Mhm.
and I remember I talked to a lawyer, and they said, "Don't do this unless you really want to do this."
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I made a list of all the reasons why I wanted to be a lawyer, and I was not on that list at all. And so I was
Interesting.
always a little bit okay with being like slightly rebellious.
Right.
Like I wasn't well, whatever you guys say.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to go to law school
Right.
because I don't want to.
Mhm.
So move on. Let's move on to the
Mhm.
next thing. Anyway, so when I was in grad school, I remember I've always been really into science. I love science. I love history too. I just love like knowledge and research and information.
Mhm.
And I remember one of the most like poignant, I guess, moments of my career was when I was in grad school and I read this study. I love the brain in a way that's like the brain's very exciting to
Yeah.
me. It makes me like,
You're a
it
nerd.
gives me a
You're a
flutter.
brain nerd.
I'm a little bit of a brain nerd.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Let's just get that out of the way. So I remember reading and reading this study and like coming to the conclusion that the brain is an anticipatory organ. So the brain as an organ is always projecting and working in future tense. So whether it's like 5 seconds from now or a year from now, your brain, the way that it works, it's always anticipating. It's a predictive organ. And so like when you look at something like this Jelly Pop shoe, which basically shout out to Jeanette.
Shout
I
out
love
Jeanette.
I love
Jeanette.
it. I love Jeanette. Your brain is actually telling you what that is before your visual cortex is like registering it. And when you think about eating something, like if you dream about eating, you just have this flash or you see a commercial. This is why these commercials really work. And there's like a donut.
Yeah.
And you think about eating a donut, your brain will already release like pretty much the right amount of insulin it would take to break down the sugars of that donut. And so,
Fascinating.
right.
I mean, my mouth literally just also
I know, which
salivated,
then
which
makes
is
you
part of
salivate. That's part of it.
Yeah.
And so it's getting you ready to eat the donut, even though the donut is not even here. So you could imagine where we're going with this, whereas we want the brain to do that because we need these shortcuts and these pathways. And that's like what makes the brain so amazing. It predicts something, it already gets you on the way to be able to deal with whatever that is. But a lot of times like this, like the donut's not here.
Yeah.
So we don't want this floating insulin in our body. That's not good for us. And the same goes with our thoughts. Or like if we're predicting a threat to happen and the threat is not real, and we've already gone down the path of like the amygdala being fired and your threat response, the cortisol levels. So it works for us, but it also can not work for us in the best way if we're not intentional about it.
Like worrying.
Right. Like worrying. And so
you worry about something, because
Right.
people always say that, like, don't worry about something that hasn't happened.
Right. And so, and sometimes we do need to worry about something that hasn't happened because it's our way of preparing for when it does happen or if it does. So there's this is in no way about like just visualizing the things that you want to happen and then stopping there and being like, well, I visualized, A because like I only want A. A is like the outcome I want the most. And if I visualize B, then it will make that come
Right.
true. Like this is about visualizing and thinking about and priming for what you want, but also visualizing and priming for if a setback occurs, how will I behave? Or and
Mhm.
also deducing how likely is this outcome to actually happen? Is this reality? This thought that I had that just came into my brain. Yes, it just came in, but does it make it true? Not all of
Mhm.
our thoughts are true.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, when I found out that the brain is an anticipatory organ, I remember going back to my supervisor and I was like, why are all the different modalities and interventions of therapy that we're learning about so past focused? Like everything is about the past, right?
Right.
And then we were just starting to get really into the present moment, which is more like cognitive behavioral techniques, which I love. And that's what I'm trained in
Mhm.
mostly. But I was like, why aren't we talking to people about what they're expecting to happen? What they
Mm.
expect out of like the meeting that they're going to have on Friday and then realize they're expecting it to go poorly and that's why they're upset or anxious. And when they're upset or anxious or sad about it or mad or frustrated, then their brain is not able to put forth the actual ability to prepare for the meeting because they think, why should I? I don't have any agency. It's going to go bad anyway. Like that
Mm.
process of like, we miss that if we're not asking someone, what do you expect to happen? What is your expectation? And so I became really obsessed with that. Most people focus in that world on like, what do you want? And I think that's really amazing. We should know what we want. But I think we're doing a disservice if we don't follow that up with, and what do you expect to actually occur? And if we have to work on closing that gap. The way that we get things done and we materialize things are if what you want matches what you expect.
I My mind is so blown right now. I'm just like, that made so much sense. And it's so interesting because, obviously we live in LA, and I'm not saying that it's only LA that does this, but,
Yeah.
we talk a lot about
Yes,
manifestations in
yes,
LA.
yes.
What is your thought on that word even? Because I guess, a lot of people would equate manifesting to
Yes.
what you want, right?
Yes,
That's what you're
yes.
doing. You're manifesting what you want.
Yeah.
Would you still say that your thought is the same, where it's like, you can manifest if that is like, what works for you and positivity, but then
Yeah.
also how do we close that gap
Yeah.
of what
You
do
can
you expect?
manifest for sure
Yes.
if you're doing it the right way.
Right.
And I think part of it is what I wrote my dissertation on was actually sensory-based visual imagery,
Mhm.
expectation, and evidence-based manifestation. So
Yes,
manifestation is real.
yes.
It's a construct, a concept that is very real. But I think how it's sort of now kind of Instagram, just like pop pseudo psych, like all that. And some people really teach it the right way and they're doing a great job. No knock on that. But I think most people think of manifestation and they kind of think of this idea of either like, well, I really asked the universe for this thing and I wanted it. And then I like looked up and then it's supposed to drop into my
Yeah.
lap. Like it's this magical, just like immediate, and there's no process to it. It's just like you thought of it, you wanted it, you've asked the universe for it, and now you wait for it.
Mhm.
And I think that sort of makes a really special process that we have the ability and the power to do as like passive. And I
Mm.
think for a lot of people, what happens is they're promised that. And maybe like once or twice with luck, you're like, I thought about getting the parking spot that was like right outside the studio.
Yeah.
And I thought of it and I wanted it and oh, there it is.
So
And
manifestation
so it works.
works. Yeah.
And then they start to be like, well, and then I thought about that worked. So then I thought, well, I really want a partner who looks like
Mhm.
the person that came up in my mind right now was that guy from off campus,
That's so
Belmont.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great choice.
Right? It's
Mhm.
a good choice.
Great choice.
I'm very in the know, right?
Yes.
Actually was obsessed with that show.
You are
It
incredibly in
was
the know.
amazing.
We
The
knew
show was
this
amazing.
first 10
No, I
minutes
don't
of
know.
this
The
conversation.
show was amazing, by
Yeah.
the way. Unreal.
Mhm.
Anyway, and then they like look over
You're like, he's
and
supposed to be
he's
just
not
right be
there.
there. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, or like taking it a little more, where it gets kind of scary. I was a psycho-oncologist for many years and I worked with cancer patients and their
Mm.
families at UCLA. And I just remember, especially in that space. So I worked for a program there that's incredible that offers free therapy and other sort of adjunctive like treatments and support for cancer patients. And the amount of patients that would come in and be like, I was working with someone like kind of on the more like self-help or spiritual. You know, you try everything when
Yeah,
you are
of
in,
course.
and I understand that. I've gone through some pretty like horrible dark times and I grappled and I've tried everything. I was
Absolutely.
desperate. I mean, I
Whatever
went to
fate.
psychics, I went
Yeah.
everywhere. And it was just this trend where they would come in and be like, I'm really scared to do the chemo. Obviously, that's scary.
Yeah.
But I'm not scared to do it because of what it is. I'm more scared to do it because then I'm telling the universe that I accept that I have cancer and then I like really have it. Or I was stressed out before this. I was worried about my daughter going into college and I was so worried about her. My worries turned into cancer. So like I caused this. And now, and then like even further, there was like this woman that had come through that was like someone had told her that her body is perfect and it's like a hologram. And if she just thought and saw it as perfect, then like there would be no cancer. And those, like when it goes there,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not saying that everyone goes there, but that's
Right.
what happens when things snowball and the right information is not out there.
Yeah.
And it started as an innocent, like I wanted the parking spot and then I got it. So it must be like I have this like ability.
Yeah.
And then when it starts to fail you, if it does, it's so detrimental. It's the same thing with like affirmations.
Yeah.
So of course, like being able to look in front of the mirror and say something that you want to believe about yourself sounds really nice. And I think the part where people get sort of tripped up and the scary part is for people that actually really need the affirmations, so people that are actually really struggling, saying a blanket statement affirmation that is opposite to how they truly feel or like the core belief they've come up with from so many years of experiences, like someone that doesn't feel like they're lovable and that has had a slew of relationships that have been like really awful and they just don't believe that they deserve love, to then have them look in front of a mirror and say, I am lovable, is like probably one of the most detrimental things they can do. And research backs this up because your brain is a smart organ. And what it does is it sort of like opens up like a computer, all the files from the last 42 years of the reasoning for why you believe that you are not lovable. And then you're like, why would you say such a dumb thing in front of the mirror, brain, like body, person? And then you feel shame. And it like kind of sets you off to this other path where really what we want them to do is to say an affirmation that they actually believe, that they want more of, but they believe. So I'd rather that person find like one thing that they like about themselves. It could be anything. What's one thing that you like sort of like about yourself? And if they could say like, I'm a loyal friend or I tell a great story or, you know, whatever it is, that is an affirmation that they can use. And then your brain starts to see what you are thinking about because that's how the brain works. It's like being tuned into a radio station.
Yeah.
And once you say that enough times and you do believe it, then I have this thing called a 7/10 rule. You believe an affirmation 7 out of 10, then you should use it. If you do not, it's not a good one to use. Then your brain starts seeking out evidence in your daily life that like fit that as well. And then by the end of a couple weeks, hopefully you might have 2 or 3, you know, different things you kind of like about yourself or you could admit you like about yourself. So it's not this shift of like now all of a sudden I'm lovable.
Right.
But maybe you get to a point after a few months where saying I'm not lovable, it doesn't ring true because you have all this other evidence to support it. And then maybe further down the line after work, you can actually say I'm lovable.
Right.
I deserve love.
Yeah.
But it's
to
not
get there in
right.
that right process.
Right.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Lots to learn. There were
Yes.
so many good things. And, you know, I know you outline a lot of it in your book.
Yes.
With a lot of, I know there was the sensory, there was, you know, I mean, I had it all written down here. We didn't get to all of them, but, you know, everybody should just read your book and see the color therapy, the narrative reframing, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing a little bit about that.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to another category we have called AGC Recommends.
Okay.
And it's basically like if we were besties and I'm AGC and I'm calling you my bestie for recommendation, what would you say?
Ooh, I
so
like
we're
this.
going to just kind of go a little bit rapid fire of whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
The daily practice you do that you swear by.
I do something I call wake up and dance. The first thing I do when I wake up, I started doing this in COVID when we were like all locked down. I just turn on music and whatever I'm feeling, the music, and I just get up. This is before I brush my teeth, before I like talk to anyone, and I just move my body and I dance.
Oh my gosh.
Even
I
if it's
love
like
that.
15 seconds.
I'm obsessed with that.
Wake up and dance.
Wake up and dance, everyone. The thing in your life you never feel guilty splurging on.
Ooh. Sleep and spending time with my family.
Oh, sleep is such a good one.
Yeah, I never feel guilty about sleep.
I am a huge napper.
Yeah.
And it's something I never feel guilty about. But I'm
not good at I wish I could nap. I'm
Yeah.
not good at sleeping during the day, but even if I like
At night,
slept, like I sleep early or whatever, like,
Yeah.
I don't feel guilty
Yeah.
about it if I'm sleeping. Even if I'm not like with my kid, like I
Right.
don't feel guilty
Yeah.
about sleep.
You know, because the hustle culture, I feel like for
Yeah.
a while taught us like, oh, you like I'll sleep when I'm dead, and like
Sleep is
so
probably
much
one of the
to get
most
done. I'm like,
important things that we have.
love. I love that answer. The tool you'd give a friend who's going through the hardest year of her life.
Even though you can't change the circumstance, and maybe it won't ever change because maybe something terrible has
Mhm.
happened that cannot be undone, what you're feeling right now is temporary.
It's really good advice. I think a lot of
And
people
self-compassion.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Very, very good. Okay. We end all of our episodes with the same question with all of our guests.
Okay.
And the question is, what would you say to your younger self?
I like that one. That's like such a good question that I probably should just have an answer for.
Oh,
'cause
no.
it's a great one.
No, it's better that, it's like
I
to
think
think about it.
I think making mistakes is part of the path, and it's actually don't skip over making mistakes. And perfection isn't what we're after. It's more like presence.
I love that. That is good advice, let alone for your younger self. For me right now, for a
Yeah,
lot
for
of
all-
our listeners,
for
like
me
for
right
all
now,
of us.
too.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I know we ran out of time because I could literally talk to you forever.
You can call me.
I just might, and I need to see
Yeah.
pictures of the drip.
Oh yeah.
So,
I'm gonna
more
send
than
that to you.
anything.
Yeah. I
But
will.
thank you so much for coming on today. I
Thank
know
you for
our
having
listeners
me.
are going to get so much from everything that you shared today. To our listeners and to our watchers, this has been Undefinable. If you love this episode, please like, share, comment, and I will see you here next week. You've been listening to Undefinable, an AAGC Originals podcast brought to you by Asian American Girl Club. Executive produced by Ali Maki and Kara Wang. Produced by Tia Sam. Edited by Jacob Ho. Intro music by Gloria Kim. Thanks for listening.